Hey guys, I'm Tiffany, and you found me on the Wise Guys channel. I'm here to give you a little preview of what we might expect to see in November with the astrology forecast. So this is for November 2021, and what we're doing is we're coming into the end of the year with that third major gone crash that I've been talking about, right? The first one was February 17th, the second one was middle of June, and the last one is on Christmas Eve. And so even though it's still December, I feel like you can still see the tensions from the year are still there. We're still kind of in the grittiness of it. And often we can't really understand the lessons or see even what's happening in the moment. Often these bigger transits are felt, then released, and it's only by looking back can you see, oh my gosh, that was whoa, that was what was going on at that time. The astrology is starting to make sense. So I think that there's going to be some tension as we approach this, as we get closer and closer to December 24th. So I want to start out by saying that and just acknowledging it. There is a bigger picture in astrology. There's always a larger transit to be looking at. There's always a smaller micro transit to be looking at. There's stars and asteroids and all kinds of ways to work with the astrology and have fun with it. And so what I'm going to do is guide us down a path of a bigger picture and then some of the details too. Okay, so that bigger picture includes Jupiter is going to semi-square Chiron, which Chiron will be retrograde at the end of November. And so that feels very medicine bag feeling to me. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's the truth is disguised as this really bitter tasting wound. You know what I mean? Not that you would, anyways. You know what I'm saying? It's the truth is disguised under some hurt or some pain, and so I feel like by the end of November, that's going to release. There will be a better sense of hope, a better sense of healing, a better sense of truth and clarity. There's also a cool transit as part of the bigger picture is that Saturn will sextile Chiron. Chiron's still retrograde. So both of these involving Chiron, but that's going to release on November 26th. And so to me, this feels like a blast from the past. It feels like a great time to be nostalgic and share memories and get out old photos or print some photos. You know what I mean? Making a photo album of some kind. It's a good time to do ancestor work, connecting to your elders, looking up your family tree. For me personally, I have a family member that's going to do a talk about our lineage through a couple of the cultural heritage societies. And so that's one way that it'll play out for me personally. So the timing is just kind of special, right? If you think about Saturn, the elders, the karma, and you think about Chiron, the wounded healer, we are living in a time that most of our ancestors never even dreamed of possible. It's not, we're like in a sci-fi world, you know what I mean? So just remembering that and honoring them. This is also a season, of course, when many cultures and families will celebrate the Day of the Dead on November 1st. So honoring that, starting out the first of the month with that, just nod to the elders in your family, the people that came before us, the teachers that came before us. Often in yoga, I'll do that where, like, at the end of practice, I'll thank every teacher, but thank every teacher in my lineage and my own heart, I go back as far as I know I can go back, and the people that I know to just be grateful to, right? Um, and I have a personal tradition on the first to do my own little, I mean, I don't really, it's not really like an altar. It's not really like a witchy thing or like a heritage thing, but I love to get out the old black and white photos of my older family members. I don't keep them up all the time, but I like to get them out and just invite them, to dinner. So you can get creative with how you can connect with your family. All right, so last but not least, in the bigger picture, we've got Jupiter semi-sextiling Pluto. This was one of the biggest events too. I talk a lot about the gone crash, but this is the one where I feel like there's more hope. Jupiter expands and broadens our horizons and inflates and magnifies and magnetizes and broadens our horizons, right? And Pluto does it through a very transformative way. So whatever you've seen this year, you can't really unsee. You know what I mean? It reminds me of a prayer I use a lot, which is where we're expanding into this infinite field of wisdom, you know, where all things are possible, right? Like that is that feeling, this infinite field of wisdom, Jupiter, where all things are possible, Pluto, right? So um, so just you can spend some time imagining what great things are possible, and that's why I ended up calling the November forecast some future nostalgia. So nostalgia is when you're looking back, right? And I'm just saying, what if we looked forward with nostalgia, with a sense of hope, you know, with a sense of wow, we're entering into a really unique and special landscape, you know, and it's going to look different, and we don't know what it's going to look like, but we know that things are changing, and how quickly can we surrender and accept and just redefine some things, you know, lots of things, everything, you know, right, everything. So it's the astrology at a glance. If we want to get back into a little bit more of the nitty gritty of it, November 4th, there is a new moon in 12 degrees of Scorpio, we're going to talk about. On the 5th, both Venus and Mercury will change signs. Venus will go into Capricorn, Mercury into Scorpio. On the 19th, there's a full moon eclipse in 27 degrees of Taurus, and you better hang on to your hats. I had a great talk with Celeste Brooks from Astrology by Celeste, and she blew me away by looking at where the last rounds of eclipses were hitting my chart. And it's one of those moments where looking back, I'm like, how did I not see that coming? You know, like I look at the astrology all the time, but often I don't sit down and look at it for my own personal chart, right? I'm doing everybody else's. And so to have her unique take on it, I was like just blown away looking at the eclipses. And so I really want you to be aware that November 19th is a major change, a major turning point. You know, where is 27 degrees of Taurus in your chart? How does it interact with the other planets? It's a big one, okay? Right? And so Celeste is going to come teach us a class on December 1st. So mark your calendars for December 1st. She's going to teach us about the solar eclipse that is coming in December. So while we're there with some housekeeping, November 10th, there's a Rune Rebellion workshop with author Annalise, and she is going to teach us all about the runes from she's a folklore practitioner, but she's also has a medical background, and she is just a fascinating person to talk to. And she's who I was talking to about like why I have an eye on my arm. It's a scar, but how it represents it represents ice in the runes, and how that goes back to my Russian lineage. So two really cool teachers are coming for us to coming with us to teach about runes and the solar eclipse. So I just want to encourage you guys to check that out. And on the 21st, the sun will enter Sag, and on the 24th, Mercury will enter Sag. So we're moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius in the month of November. In the numerology, it shifts to a 7, which is much like the soul quest, much like the student, much like the wise owl that enjoys kind of getting lost in thought. It can be a good time to really buckle down and get focused on something. For a personal example of what this looks like, a lot of you guys know that I started beekeeping this year. And the fall is a time when, like today, I'm going to go out and kind of get my bees ready for the fall and hopefully just not touch them again until the spring, right? And so in the month of November, what I'm going to do is go back through all of the videos, all of the resources, all of the books, and really focus in on the study, the studious aspect, the science aspect of beekeeping, as opposed to being in the field and working the bees and working with the hives and the apitherapy, all of the ways that the hive can be therapeutic medicinally, right? So that like that 7, that focus, that quest energy, that bringing it down and getting into the nitty gritty. You know, you can look back, like, what have you seen this year? And, you know, I just invite you to explore that. What have you seen? What has changed? You know, this is a really interesting time to be alive. It's worth documenting patterns, life lessons, stuff in the news, stuff in your families and your communities and your school systems, right? So All right, so what else is going on in November? If you want just a little crystal hit to work with in November, play with your fluorite. It brings clarity and peace. And play with your blue apatite. It brings authenticity and balance, you know? And I think that's like the perfect two little crystals to be working with. So if we're going to dive into the specifics a little deeper, the new moon on November 4th is in 12 degrees of Scorpio, right? That's my favorite new moon of the year. Do I say that about every single one? All right. So an intention for you is I experience clarity, magic, and curiosity. I trust that all is well in my kingdom. That when the new moon is in Scorpio, you can make your wishes or set your intentions around a sense of magic and mystery and vitality and freedom and a healthy use of personal power. Any area where you want to dive deep or you need some information behind the scenes, um, you can work with Scorpio energy for passion, you know, for your partner, for connecting deeply. You can use your Scorpio new moon to get more resourceful, to work with different tools in a new way, to make connections, to do some estate planning, or to even do some future planning with your personal finances, you know. So I know we were just talking about crystals for November, but crystals for the new moon, specifically in Scorpio, maybe some tiger's eye, right, for empowerment, maybe some carnelian for emotional intelligence. Wearing carnelian, I'm like a quadruple Scorpio. I'm like, you know, so I am careful with the carnelian. I'm very specific when I want to wear it, but I think it's a great one to play with, a great one to get to know. So there are also challenging vibes with the Scorpio new moon, of course. So there's always an opportunity to wish for more, or to create something, or to put an action plan on paper with the new moon. But there's also an opportunity to be aware of the bad side, the negative side, the side that brings you down. And the side that brings you down is Scorpio. The things that you might wish to remove would be jealousy, or revenge, or secrecy, or distrust. You know what I mean? Overcoming some of those things. All right, on the 5th, Venus moves into Capricorn. So in Hotel Capricorn through the end of the year. So Venus, uh, the planet that influences our love, the way that we see and connect to other people, our relationships, also our money, our net worth, our self-worth. So with Capricorn, right, we're looking for something more long-term. We're looking for a longer commitment. We're looking for things to feel stable and calm and centered. We're not looking for the emotional high of the addictive tendencies to go back and forth. We're looking for something that is familiar and calming. And that Venus and Capricorn can also be critical, you know, it can also be which is good, you know, when you have a critical eye for things. This is great if you're drawing architecture, you know what I mean? There's certain times when that's really, really useful. Um, so wanting to feel committed, also wanting to feel a more mature Capricorn approach to our love, our life, you know. So wanting to be connected in a more mature way. Mercury will enter Scorpio that day too. So November 5th, an interesting day on the calendar, the changing of the guards and 2 planets. Mercury represents how we think, how we process information, how we learn and understand things, how we communicate. And so when Mercury goes into Scorpio, this can be a more fixed or calculated way of thinking about things. And people can be more blunt. The sense of humor can be more dry or racy. You know what I mean? So Scorpio represents the metaphysical world too. So if you're thinking about doing metaphysical things, or you're wanting to learn metaphysical topics, right? You can learn how to do tarot. You can learn about your 9-star key. You can learn about your Akashic records, right? Like you can start to let your mind wander in that unseen world. So whatever that thing is that appeals to you, that's a little bit taboo, it will call your name, you know, in the month of November here, because Mercury in Scorpio with the sun, right? So I want you to also to circle November 6th as a potential best day. It's hard to pick out this month, right? It's hard to pick out. But Mercury will sextile Venus that day, and there's a little bit more ease, a little bit more flow, a little bit more understanding, a little bit more grace. Um, Mercury and Venus together, it can also be like a day when you find some easy finds, like maybe you're thrifting or you're in a garage sale and you find like that ball canner that costs $300 online, but somebody's grandma wants to give it away and you steal it for $5. Not steal it, but you know what I mean? Like you get a great deal for $5, right? So being on the lookout for those type of things. Mercury sextiling Venus with the new Venus in Capricorn and Mercury in Scorpio. I just feel like there's a poof day of it's like just a great time of flow of things progressing, of things like falling into the stream of life. You're not having to swim up against it so much. And so just look at that for as one of the good days maybe. And it's important to take advantage of that good day and the other good days, right? Because November 10th, we start to get some more caution lights coming on. Mercury and Mars are going to square Saturn within that week. And so this is when things get heated. This is when accidents are more likely. If you know your human design and you have some third line issues where you're clumsy and you break a lot of stuff. I just broke a glass this morning in the sauna. I don't think I'd even did anything, just my being there. You know what I mean? It just like combusted. So the idea here is like just random little accidents look more prominent. It's a good time to take inventory, figure out what's working, figure out what needs to change. There's a sense of urgency, a sense of impatience, a sense of that uncomfortability. You know, Mercury will be by Mars squaring Saturn. It just, I mean, listen to how that sounds. You know, it feels like conflict. You know, it feels like Five of Swords, and it feels like heads will roll. You know what I mean? We're looking at this eclipse, and it will be, as I understand it, I haven't gone into my deep study of it, but it will be by the fixed star Algol. I can't say it, but it's the star that represents beheading. You know, it's one of the most feared fixed stars in the fixed star nation. Okay, so we want to be really aware of when things feel intense. You know, is it possible? Is it possible? Is it possible? You could just pause and you could just breathe in, and you could call somebody else, or you could turn on a song, right? Whenever we get heated, we're learning to pause and pivot. And I just want to challenge you guys to really, really do it, you know, to not send that text that's ugly, you know, to not say that thing that is so critical, right? Like that, can we just pause and come back to our own design and realize, you know, what kind of soul growth do we want to do? So those caution lights are both uh, physical, like this is not the greatest time to be doing a whole lot of health improvement stuff. You know what I mean? Like I do always do your health improvement stuff, but what I mean is like surgeries, um, like new protocols. It doesn't feel like the right time. You know, maybe it's the right time for you. You're going to know if it is, but I would look for a better time if I was looking at some significant health situation, right? Always improve yourself through yoga, right? Meditation, like your normal workout routine. But the idea is changing that or looking at some new kind of protocols or surgeries that feels like no, that feels like a no to me, right? Maybe it's different for you. But on that 11th, we've got a first quarter moon in Aquarius. And this is a yang phase. This is where we can make some decisions. This is where we can get more determined. And so there might be a little fire that helps you get more determined or more clear about something. And that kind of fire can be very useful. On the 12th, Mars is going to go on an in conjunct retrograde Chiron. And, you know, this is when you can stand up for your inner child. This is when you can say enough's enough. I'm back in charge. You can go play. You know what I mean? Standing up for your inner child work in general is always good. On the 12th, it feels like a really potent time to overcome some things from the past. The 13th through the 15th, you know, Venus is going to semi-square Jupiter. The sun is going to square Jupiter. To me, that looks like overspending, overeating, overinflating things. So moderation in all things. Loose lips sink ships, right? So if somebody's asked you to keep a truth quiet for them and not overshare information, you know, honor that. Like really try to honor that. And so on the 15th through the 19th, we have Mars is going to be opposing Uranus retrograde on the 17th. And then on the 19th is that full moon lunar eclipse. And to me, that feels very volatile. It feels like a lot of wires being crossed. It feels like a lot of surprise information, you know, that feels, it doesn't feel like good surprise information to me. And I am the most hopeful, optimistic writer of astrology. You know, when it comes down to it, I really like to find the good in all things. And so I'm always going to throw that out there. But I want to shoot straight with you too, that it looks like there's a lot of room for things to take a completely different turn, you know, in November, for us to be surprised by some things. And so, what is it that we do with that surprise, right? How do we respond? Um, can we slow down? Can we seek to understand? Can we give some special care and thought to all of the emergency workers or the people that are on the front lines, right? This lunar eclipse in 27 degrees Taurus, I guarantee you something is coming unearthed. Something's coming unearthed, and we might not even see it until we're looking back on it. But circle that date in your journal as something to really take awareness around. Notice your dreams. What are you dreaming about? I had a lovely dream last night of my mom. Maybe it's the third most significant dream. And then on my memories today, through social media, there was pictures around her second funeral. So we're a 2-year anniversary of her second funeral. She came in my dreams. You know what I mean? It's like, notice what's going on around these eclipse times. Like, notice what's important. Notice what's changing for you. What does that dream mean to me? You know what I mean? Where can I take that and use it for good, right? So, coming on Earth, guys, coming on Earth. On that solar eclipse day, the sun will semi-square Venus too. So feeling like that sense of that you've been denying yourself, that sense that you haven't chosen yourself, that sense that you've maybe given a lot away or wasted some time or something like this. It feels like moody. You know what I mean? It just feels really um, moody. So let's shift that, right? So where is that going to shift? Like, let's look at the 20th, that next day, that hangover period, right? Mercury is going to square Jupiter. The micro isn't matching up with the macro. We haven't come into full alignment. There's some reverb going on, you know. Then on the 21st, the sun will enter Sagittarius, and maybe it's a false sense of hope. Maybe it's a real sense of hope. But the sun in Sagittarius is more fun, more playful, less dark and dirty. You know what I mean? So on that day, there's kind of a bonus going on because Mercury will sextile Pluto that day too. And so it feels like a fun game of Clue. You know what I mean? It feels like a really fun who done it, or a really fun like journey to discover or uncover something that feels a lot more um, Clue and a lot less like true crime that happened in your neighborhood. You know what I mean? On the 24th, Mercury will then join the sun in Sagittarius. This is when we have more exciting ideas. Maybe there's some indecision, maybe there's some waffling around, but you're more into like a go with the flow instead of that fixed Scorpio mentality where things need to go in this order. In Sagittarius, they don't really have to go in an order at all. And so you're kind of weaving into a little bit more open-minded time of the year, right? And so your Thanksgiving forecast, Saturn is going to sextile Chiron. Mercury is going to semi-square Venus. I feel like that's a great time to share memories, to learn from the past, to start new mentor relationships, to start new traditions, really. I have thrown a line out to get together with some of my cousins, and maybe it'll work and maybe it won't. But the idea is there's an invitation for some new traditions, right? Am I going to make my family wear Christmas pajamas and eat the exact thing? Don't think that I don't have a plan for the Thanksgiving meal, right? The difference is that nobody has to eat it this year. I'm still going to make it exactly how I want. Of course, the cranberry and orange relish, you know, with some ginger. Of course, I'm going to do this stuffing with sage, which is really just cornbread and veggie soup mushed together. You know what I mean? And of course, I'm going to do sweet potatoes with the vegan marshmallows, and I'm going to do those traditional things. But y'all, I baked a squash the other day, like a little squash boat with the vegan butters and parm and all of the stuff that makes it kind of extra gooey and crunchy on top. Put some oregano in there and salt and pepper, of course. It was so good that I'm going to make it a Thanksgiving side dish. Um, so there we are. Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving forecast, things can work in your favor. There is an element of persuasion, right? So being mindful of how we're communicating with the people that we love, and maybe just hanging out, keeping that sense of nostalgia alive. That whole week means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? And so just figuring out what your traditions are and how you want to carry them forward. That's fun. It can be fun. um, there's a last quarter moon on the 27th in Virgo, in 5 degrees of Virgo. So this is a great time to get your ducks in a row, to get organized. That Jupiter Pluto big thing I was talking about releases that day too. It's one of the major planetary aspects of 2021. It allows you to see what great things are possible. So get yourself in order by the end of November. You're going to have had that 7 numerology. You're going to have had that time to focus. You're going to have had that time to study and get more and more clear. You're going to have gone through a roller coaster of emotions, I think. You know what I mean? Let's hope I'm wrong, but I think there's going to be some big ups and downs, right? And so by the time that we get through those big ups and downs and through our focus studies, what do we need to get in order? Where do we want to find, hope, right, for the future? There's a hope domino effect going on starting on the 27th through the 30th. Um, so many little things. Mars is going to trine Neptune. Mercury is going to trine Chiron. Mercury is going to sextile Saturn. The Sun will trine Chiron. Venus will sextile Neptune. The Sun will sextile Saturn. All of these are positive, and they feel so much better than the rest of the month, right? So if it feels kind of gritty throughout November, just stay like a leaf on a fast moving stream. Stay agile, stay adaptable, stay kind to yourself. Give yourself a little bit more quiet time to stay focused on something that you really want to do, so that you don't feel like this whole year has been kind of quote unquote wasted on squandering the hours of things that you really don't want to do, right? And so let this be a month where you make sure that you've addressed all those things. I wanted to learn beekeeping and mushrooms. I didn't set myself up enough time to get as involved in the mushroom community as I wanted to. So I'll probably be going to a few of the mycology Zooms. I'll probably giving myself a little bit more time so that I feel like there's going to be a sense of completion in this year, a sense of satisfaction with that, right? That's going to taste good, right? All right. So just know that there's a lot of special focus dates for you. I have those in an article at wiseskiescollective.com. So there's the November forecast, but then there's a second blog post called the November special focus dates. So if you're like, I need to know the best dates for love, for money, for creativity, I need to know the caution light dates, when to lay low. I've listed them all out for you and kind of kept them separate of the general forecast so that you can access that easily without getting overwhelmed by so much astrology on one post. All right, so all of that's in there. I'm just scanning my article to make sure I didn't miss anything. But yeah, the best days are the ones that you make. Happiness is a choice, and we're not determined by the weather. You know what I mean? It's like if it's raining outside, I can still have a good day. If there's lightning is crashing, I can still have peace within, right? And so astrology is kind of the anchor over at Wise Skies. I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast, this episode. I welcome your feedback. I welcome a space for you to share your experiences and give me some feedback. We just so that you know, we've got a free metaphysical learning group, of course, on Facebook. It's the Wise Skies Inner Circle. People are practicing astrology, tarot, giving feedback on different readings, asking questions, some paranormal stuff. There's all of the metaphysical things are over there. And we also have a really cool membership. And so this month in November, Leisha is doing a big human design training for us, a topic that is very close to my heart. It's a members only class. And our membership is just $22 a month. So you're getting a $150 level class for just $22. You're also getting the Astro Tarot forecast for every sign in the zodiac. And you're also getting a new moon meditation. And this one is going to be the new moon in Scorpio. So I guarantee you it's going to be a good, juicy nice meditation for you to use on the new moon. So, and then in December, I told you guys we've got Celeste coming to teach a class on December 1st about the December eclipse, which I'm so excited about. We also have Annalise coming in November to teach us about runes. And I'm going to let you guys find the classes page at wiseskiescollective.com if you want to sign up for anything. I hope everybody just sets the intention to have their own soul quest in November, you know? And let me know what you come up with. Keep track of your dreams and keep looking forward with that future sense of nostalgia. Thanks for being here, guys, and namaste.